All right. Well, we can go ahead and jump into it then. My name is Stephen Leverone. I'm with FTC Team 18304 Ultraviolet. I'm going to be presenting marketing and branding for teams of all ages, veteran, rookie, FRC, FTC. So, hoping you'll learn something new today. At least take a little bit of advice about social media and how to maintain a consistent brand. Um, I am on my lunch break at work right now, so the rattling you hear in the background is the electrical unit in the stock room. So my apologies for that. But there we go. All right. Um, I'll go ahead and just start with a little bit about myself. Um, like I said, my name is Stephen Leverone. I'm a six-year first veteran. I'm going into my seventh year FTC, been doing it since sixth grade. And I did have 2 years in FRC before deciding to create my own community team with some friends in my junior year. So thus became Ultraviolet. I've spent about 4 of those years volunteering for Georgia First. I suppose this would make five. So I helped plan this symposium, last year's symposium. I've done plenty of FLL mentoring and volunteering at events, planning events, and then as well as counseling at the Dobbins STEM camp over the past couple summers. My current role on the team is team business captain. I'm also, I suppose, like an executive director. We don't really have official roles, but I do manage most of like the finances and the team organization. So just to let you know a little bit about branding before we jump into it, brand is kind of the recognizable characteristics of an organization, and you use your brand to uh, make your company, organization, whatever it may be, unique from others who might do something similar to you. Branding your team is a key part of marketing, which is kind of advertising for your team, um, and putting yourselves out there. You might know, and I'm sure you've all done like the intro to brand, where at school they take you through and they show you McDonald's, and they just scroll through a bunch of different logos and they say, now recognize that. That's the whole point of a brand, is to be recognizable and unique so that all of those other burger places, uh, they know who you are. Of course, this is robotics, so you're more focusing on team colors and what you're going to be handing out at events and your team logo, as opposed to something like what's on your menu or the golden arches outside of your drive-through. So just a little bit about this presentation before we begin. Um, I'm going to kind of take you through creating a logo and the process you might want to use for that, um, and identifying specific team colors, and then putting it all together and maintaining that brand consistency throughout a season, as well as how to use social media to kind of garner some attention both in your community, worldwide even, um, and kind of share what you've been up to over these past couple of years. So we'll go ahead and jump into creating a logo. So a logo is kind of the symbol or icon that makes your team recognizable. Good logo is typically simple, memorable, and distinct. You can tell it apart from any other logo you see. The two main parts of a logo, and at least the logos that I prefer and feel are the most recognizable and first, are the lettering and the iconography. So you'll see off to the right, the lettering would be ultraviolet 18304, and the iconography would be the UV in the little purple circle. Different types of logos are going to be horizontal or vertical, reverse, and one color. I'm going to show you some examples, and it'll be a bit more clear of what each is. But basically, your horizontal logo is typically going to include the lettering, the text, um, and it's going to be long. Typically, vertical logos aren't exactly vertical. They're not super tall. Typically, it's like a square, something that's just not horizontal. It's not exactly the opposite, but it's not quite vertical either. Um, so reverse just refers to a logo that uses your secondary color. Um, Typically, So our team colors, for instance, are purple and white. So you see on the white background, we use purple lettering. If we used a purple background, we would use the white form of the logo, which you can actually see in the bottom right corner, how it's white on purple. Then you've got one color, which is, say, you're printing a team shirt and you're printing on black. Of course, to keep costs low, you can print in one color, so you might print everything in white. That would be an example of a one color logo. So we're going to review the first logo, because I'm sure by now we're all familiar with that. The iconography would, of course, be the triangle, circle, and square that are all kind of intertwined like that. Your text, your lettering is going to be the first itself, just first word. And then just to kind of give a picture example of what we just talked about. Horizontal logo is going to be long. So it's typically got the lettering and the logo side by side. And then your vertical logo is typically going to be one on top of the other, kind of squarish, not super tall, but I mean, vertical in orientation. So what first refers to as just their logo and reverse logo, you see the text is black on a white background or a light background, or for the reverse, it's just white on a black or dark background. They do have very specific brand standards that kind of take you through when you're supposed to use each of them. So you're not supposed to, like, say, put it on a background that's super cluttered and both light and light and dark, where it's hard to read either of the texts. But yeah, we don't actually have our own brand standards. We have been working on them, but we don't really have too many usage of of our logo. So we haven't actually sat down and decided when to use these things, because we really only have 3 or 4. It's not super necessary. I know First really does like it for the copyright, but for sure, I mean, if you wanted to create your own brand standards, that's definitely something to look into. I have that resource at the end that you can check out later. So some about team colors. So dynamic color scheme kind of contributes to the recognizability. Typically, you are going to want to choose colors that work with your theme. So we're ultraviolet, so of course we chose violet. Most teams use a primary and a secondary color. Of course, not everything can be orange. It could be one shade of orange and then a darker shade of orange, or it could be orange and black, orange and white. Really, it's up to you. Like I said, our primary color is purple and our secondary color is white. So just about everything is going to be white and purple that you see, or it's going to be black, which is considered our tertiary color. The color, you're going to want to be specific with it. I mentioned this to be very important because I've been on teams before where we haven't determined an exact color, where our color would just be purple, or just be orange, or just be gray and yellow. So keeping things super specific with hex codes and CMYK codes kind of bring unity to your brand. Of course, you don't want to print a bunch of things on your team shirt where it all looks different colors and it all looks really messy. You all want it in the one color. So hex codes, if you don't know, they're kind of like RGB codes, which is red, green, blue. This is the type of kind of color descriptor that screens use. The way that light works is, instead of having primary colors like we have in art, which are red, yellow, and blue, it uses additive light, where all of the colors combine to turn to white instead of black. So you use the red, green, and blue from the color spectrum. So 8F refers to the amount of red. We don't have any green, and FF refers to the amount of blue. This is using the hex kind of system instead of binary. So instead of being base 2 or being numbers like 10, 12, it's going from 0 to 16. So we have 8 and then 16. So add those and then 2 16s as well. That is kind of how hex codes work. There are plenty of online resources where you can where you can find a color you like and it'll tell you the hex code, CMYK, RGB, everything you need. You can create your own color palettes. Or, of course, I mean, you could find something in, say, Microsoft Paint, and then use the little eyedropper tool and it'll tell you as well. So there are plenty of ways to find exactly what color you use. On the opposite side of things, the CMYK codes work with printing. So that stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which is just black in this case. This is what printers use. So when you create a color, not everything a printer can print is something that can be on a screen and vice versa. Screens have come a long way, and now for the most part, everything you see on a screen, all good, but not all of that can be printed. If you actually see on the bottom left of the screen on our little purple border there, how it gets that deep purple, that looks almost black when you actually print it out. So when you create your brand, you definitely want to kind of test through some of these colors and make sure that it actually prints accurately and as accurately as it would be on a screen, or else some of your purples might look blue and some of your greens might look a little yellow. These deep saturated colors often tend to do that. It's just how printers work. For shirts, there are different types of ways you can print a shirt. So sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. It's all kind of a trial and error thing, and it's really good to make sure that you test that kind of stuff out before you lock in on your brand. Then we come to maintaining brand consistency. So the brand consistency helps the team look organized and professional and kind of accomplishes the goal of the brand, which is, at the end of the day, to kind of give personality to your team, make it super distinct from all the other brands. And that third bullet point, it's just really cool. It's so satisfying to be able to see everything come together with your brand, with your team, and know that's mine. So like this first picture here on the left, we took a picture of sheet metal on a table. And I mean, that's a super basic picture. It's just a bunch of our CNC parts. But we added a little bit of photo editing with the purple filter and put our little watermark in the bottom right corner of it. Posted that on Instagram and got a ton of likes. It looks really nice. And then on the right side, we played with some lighting when we were going to edit a video. And we actually have the purple lights in the back. So that white wall looks kind of purple, bluish. The monitor is purple. We've got the logo everywhere, both on the screen, on the robot. So it's just super satisfying when it all comes together. And especially when people from outside of your team, they take a look at it and they say, wow, that's really impressive. And that's something that looks professional, unique, and like I said, the biggest thing, distinct. So now we're going to dive into kind of the basics of using social media. Like I said before, social media gives an opportunity to reach out to other teams and your local community. One of the big key things about social media is that you have to you have to understand your audience, kind of know who you are curating all of your posts to, who is actually going to be interacting with your posts. And it's best to keep things professional for that reason. Kind of post things that make your team proud, keep your images well cropped and looking sleek. Avoid kind of the text language and overusing emojis that just make your captions hard to read. And always review your insights to kind of grow and expand it. I mean, I know we aren't necessarily companies here, so it's not like growth is a super huge deal, but at the end of the day, especially with COVID, doing this online outreach and in-person outreach, social media is a genuine way where you can recruit attendees for those events. So growth, at least getting your team out there, always has its benefits. So just an example of an Instagram post my team made. So like I said, we did this with the sheet metal picture. And then our caption says, guess where we were last weekend? Huge thanks to FRC Team 4188 for cutting our aluminum parts with their CNC router. Then we have a couple tags and a couple ats. So a couple things to notice. We added our location to our post. This in particular is because the Instagram algorithm will actually see that and then recommend us to other people in Marietta, Georgia. And it does that a little bit more directly than just posting in general and then hoping that it gets out to people. Additionally, for teams that want to know where we are, we of course include our location in our bio, which is our little kind of account blurb. But it also works well because we're kind of including that information there so that they know the second they see, wow, this is a Georgia team and they worked with this other team to cut parts for their robot. Our caption, kind of the thing I want to point out there is that it's pretty brief. It's not a huge essay. We include tags and hashtags. So Columbus Space Program, which is Team 4188, who actually cut these parts for us, they're tagged in this post so that they can save it to their own feed. We tagged both the official First account and the Georgia First account because a lot of times they'll repost other teams' posts if they really like them. So I included those there. I used the OMG robots tag because that's kind of like the big first one. If you make a post, kind of ground line rule, it's pretty unspoken, is to tag OMG robots because that's how when you start posting about robotics, that's how people from the First community kind of know you're from First and they can search through OMG robots tags and find you. I just include some other relevant tags, so like manufacturing, sheet metal manufacturing, and ultraviolet, our team name. We did include our logo as a watermark on this image. That's kind of just to make sure that it's ours and that people know it's recognizable as ours. That's about it. I mean, big thing with brand is to be meticulous. You kind of want, for the purpose of consistency, to review these posts over and over again, kind of make sure it's up to par with the rest of your posts before you send it out. Because you definitely want it to feel like it's yours and like it's the best it can be before everyone else sees it, if that makes sense. So something that's just this short, I know it took probably 15 to 20 minutes to edit the photo the way we wanted, and then probably another 15 to add the information, generate the caption, etc. So we're also going to look at Instagram Insights. Now, just about every social media platform you can use for these kind of posts have insights when you create a business account. I prefer Instagram Insights personally, and I think that they're the easiest to use as far as I've found in my experience. So it's just what I'm going to talk about for now. For sure, go with your other social media accounts and play around. I know YouTube, Twitch, and I think Twitter as well all have them. So some of the most useful insights for me are going to be the follower locations, accounts reached, growth charts, follower ages, and follower active times. Just to give a little bit of a scoop there, the follower location is a little chart that shows the percentages of your followers and where they're from. So for instance, I believe we have about 3 to 4% of our followers from
Hello everyone. I don't know if you're having issues as well with the video, the presentation, but I believe Stephen is having issues with connecting. Stephen, you good?
Hey, yeah.
Hi.
Uh, okay. When did I cut out?
You hold on. Let me at the Instagram insights.
Okay. Here, I'll pull that back up.
Okay. I didn't know if it was on my end or not. But
Now,
you're at the part where you're talking about the location.
location. Oh, wow. Okay, so I cut out a lot
Yes.
earlier than I thought. Okay. Sorry about
Sorry.
that. Bad connection, I guess. Um, so yeah, follower location. Um, I guess I'll kind of just summarize what I said before. Follower location, um, kind of shows uh the demographic of your followers, where they're located. Um, so, I mean, it's pretty simple. I did bring up earlier how we like to include on our posts the location of our team, Marietta, Georgia, right on there. And what's kind of interesting is that our main demographic is Marietta. We've got 4% of our followers from there, and then 2 point something outside of the state, even. Um, so that kind of lets you know, I mean, where your community is, where your followers are, and who you can kind of reach out to through social media. The accounts reached is pretty interesting as well. It goes through the followers and non-followers that have interacted with your account for however long you've decided. These statistics in particular are the past 90 days. So we reached on this left picture, we reached 155 of our followers and 29 of our non-followers. The big thing with other FTC and FRC teams is that they tend to follow a lot of people. So a lot of times they don't see our post because it gets lost in their super large feed. So, I mean, we only reached 155, which is kind of disappointing. Um, so we would know from there that we need to create a more exciting post that gets more likes and more comments so that it ends up on the top of more feeds and we can interact with more people. That'll also bring up that non-follower number because it means we'll get recommended on the Explore page to other teams, other viewers, people. Um, so yeah, growth charts are not super duper important in my opinion. They're just interesting to look at because when you post, you'll notice that the follower count tends to go super high up, and then it'll level out for a bit, and then it'll kind of exponentially go down the more time until your next post. So definitely keep an eye out on that. That kind of uh, lets you know how long you have before people start unfollowing or losing interest in your page, kind of when you have to post again. Follower ages also isn't too important. I enjoy it just because it's interesting to know about my demographic. Um, for instance, our team mostly has teenagers, which would be other members of First, I would assume. Um, Young adults, which I would assume are going to be like First alumni, young mentors, and then kind of middle-aged adults, which I would assume are going to be more uh, parents and some of the outreach partners we work with, some of our sponsors as well. Um, Follower active times is by far the most useful of all of these insights. It's this chart on the right. I pulled it up for today. If we were going to post for today, we would want to post around 12 p.m. So right around when this presentation started. Most active times chart shows when your followers are most active on Instagram. So Instagram, when you sign up for your account, you check that terms and conditions. It takes data when you're using the app, and it says you are using the app at this time and you're not using it at this time. Compiles that, and because we have our social media business account, um, it actually tells us not specifically, but generally when people are online. So we know to post at 12 p.m. because then it is most likely to be at the top of everyone's feed. It's more likely to get more likes, more comments, and shares that way, which, like I brought up earlier, will recommend it to other people that aren't following us. So yeah, I really do like the most active times chart. And out of all of these insights, that's the one that I check more often than any of the others, just to make sure that when we post, we're doing it at the time that's best for our followers and not necessarily for us. So in summary, Instagram Insights are most useful to determine when and what to post, although, like I said, they're just interesting tidbits about our demographic and the like. So they are pretty neat to look into anyways, elsewise. So that is going to about wrap it up for what I have to say, my lecture, if you will. For these kinds of presentations, I really do like having more of a Q&A based presentation. So I am going to open the floor to any questions. If you want to use the chat or Q&A box to kind of send stuff, we will go ahead and get those answered for you. Like I said earlier, I would link the First Inspires brand guidelines. So firstinspires.org/brand, that has everything you need for brand guidelines. It has all of their logo downloads if you need to include that in a presentation or whatnot. That's where I got all of the ones I used from. The ultraviolet brand folder is actually that QR code if you're interested in scanning that, or if you need, I can post the link in the chat as well. That's just, it has this presentation in it, and it's got some kind of basic brand stuff that our team's doing. And if you check into it later in the season, you'll see more in there as well. If you're interested, you can give us a follow at ultraviolet.ftc on Instagram, or find us at ultravioletftc on Twitch and YouTube. And then outside of this presentation, if you missed an opportunity to ask a question or generate one later, you can always email me at ultravioletftc@gmail.com. And yeah, my name is Steven, and that is about it. If anyone has any questions, you can go ahead.
I believe you have one question, which is how can you leverage social media to contact sponsorships or gain mentors?
Okay, that's actually a good one. So key thing with social media is it's not necessarily going to be your venue of contact professionally. A lot of teams will use the direct messaging feature of different social media apps to kind of get in contact with other teams. Perfectly fine. I know a lot of teams also use Discord. They use the official FTC Discord server. That's a great venue to contact other teams as well. As far as mentors and sponsorships go, I would not use private messaging or direct messaging as your main medium for communication. In my opinion, and as far as I know with some of our sponsors, email is typically going to be the best way. Email, phone call, or face-to-face conversation is going to be typically superior to social media, but you can always send them your social media accounts and kind of give them an insight of your team. So I suppose what I didn't mention earlier, and I'm glad this question makes me think of it now, is your social media can kind of document where your team has been and where it's planning on going. So just like a website, it's good to go ahead and send that to potential sponsors, potential mentors. That way you can kind of get them excited and give them a little insight on what your team is and what its mission is before they commit to, say, donating to your team or donating a couple days out of the week to help you guys program or whatnot. But yeah, I would say that using your social media, if you just kind of follow my advice here with keeping it professional and kind of understanding that those groups, those people can be a part of your audience, then you're perfectly fine. I have never actually had any sponsors contact us first through social media or because of our social media. I suppose when you get big enough, for sure, that can happen when you get recommended to companies and corporations. But for now, it's at least for us, and what I'm hoping to kind of help you work towards is kind of growing that more locally. So that way, people are excited for you kind of in your area. But yeah, for sure, you can use social media to kind of get sponsors, get mentors excited about your team, and then always use those more professional venues of communication to kind of seal the deal, you know. Is there anything else?
Another person submitted a question and they wrote, "This is a fantastic presentation. What software would you recommend students pick up to learn more about branding?"
Um, you know, for me personally, and I know unfortunately he couldn't be here today, another branding expert in Georgia First, one of my teammates, Egan Donley, um, he is really good with what is it called? Adobe Illustrator. Sorry. So that's actually how we created our brand. His mom is a graphic designer, so she kind of gave him the scoop on all the different tools and features to use. I know in the past, some of my teammates to create logos have used Photoshop, or they've even drawn something on paper and then kind of used something like MS Paint or Paint 3D to trace over logos and make them digital. For other resources on brand, a lot of what I've learned has had to do with trial and error through, I mean, of course, insights, kind of testing the waters and figuring out what works and what doesn't. YouTube has also helped a lot with that. I really do like love branding and marketing. Um, so I'm the kind of nerd that'll sit down and watch a YouTube video on it for an hour and then go to bed or something like that. Um, so YouTube gives a lot of insight. A lot of creators will talk about the different algorithms of social media, how to boost your posts and whatnot. Um, and then they'll also talk about kind of different advices to give to smaller content creators, I suppose, which a lot of the time I can kind of reverse engineer for our team and end up successful that way as well. Um, Off the top of my head, I don't really know of any particular software that'll help you kind of create a brand. All I could really help you with is like those logo softwares like Adobe Illustrator or some online uh, version of that, like some free online version. Canva might be good for that as well. Um, Photoshop or Photopea, which is kind of an online free alternative, that would work as well. Um, as far as getting the colors, like I said, anything kind of like an eyedropper tool, that'll work. Or you can use some of those color palettes online. If you just search up create your own color palette in Google and click any of the links it finds for you, just about all of them should tell you hex code, RGB code, and CMYK codes for all your colors. So, any other questions?
The next question is also, do you recruit more specifically for marketing students? How would you get students interested and involved on the marketing side?
That's actually a really good question. Um, for me, I kind of fell into it. I know in the past, um, a lot of my team members joined robotics for the robots, specifically. Probably one of the best ways I would say is to kind of have them test the waters on their own and bring them into the business marketing teams. I know a way that a lot of my teammates got started was through the business plan, creating the business plan for the team for the engineering notebook, um, and there's just something satisfying about creating that, um, especially when you're a teenager. It feels so adult to do something. I don't know. I get kind of a rush from that. I know a lot of students in first really enjoy that as well. Um, and I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of it really comes down to what is the identity of your team. You could you could say like, what do you want our team colors to be? And they could say, I don't know, yellow and blue, and then just sit down with them as a mentor or as a member yourself and kind of work with them to figure out, well, what exactly should these specific colors be, or should we make any edits to the logo for next year? um, I don't know, it's kind of the little things like that that can get everyone excited and a little bit pumped to be a part of your specific team as opposed to just any team in first. Any other questions?
Those are all the questions for right now.
All right. Well, I guess we can give it a couple more minutes. I don't actually know how much time we have left in this panel before we have to move on to the next one. But I will leave that QR code up for you. I guess just if we have any other questions, I'm good to sit here for a couple more minutes.
There are 24 minutes left in the session, and I don't believe there are any panels after this one, but there are others going on right now. So if anyone attending wants to go view another one's last few minutes of presenting, you're more than welcome to. But thank you, Stephen, for presenting, and thank you, attendees, for attending.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Yes. And we can wait until 12:40 for more questions just in case, if you want.
That works with me.